if you opened up a business in 2001, if you didn't have a yellow page ad, you were an idiot. You had to be in there because it literally paid for itself tenfold. I mean, and now 25 years later, you need SEO. Your company, you can't just not be online anymore. You have to have a website. You have to be aware of Google reviews. You have to be aware of where you're sitting. It's so important.
Welcome to Give a Heck. I am your host, Dwight Heck, and for much of my life, lived my life in quiet desperation, wondering how I was going to pay the bills, take vacations, save for retirement, and one day wondering if I would get off the hamster wheel of life and have purpose. A life that most of society lives, which takes us to work, then home, then repeat, and pays us hopefully enough just to survive. The harsh truth that most live with more month than money and have no idea how to live life on purpose, not by accident. This ensures the mass majority are living not just financially broke, however emotionally and mentally as well due to financial pressures. In each episode, I will introduce you to thoughts, ideas, and guests that can help you to learn how you too can live life on purpose, not by accident.
Good day and welcome to Give a Heck. On today's show, I welcome Bobby McIntyre. Bobby is a specialist in both music and SEO, and though born and raised in the US, now resides in Canada and has two major passions. One of his passions is music, and he fronts an 80s cover band which electrifies the music and truly brings it to life. His second passion is SEO development and implementation. SEO, which stands for search engine optimization, can be a deal breaker for many, whether they stand out or stay in the shadows of the internet. His Rockstar SEO business has helped many people go from obscure to rock stars themselves in their own industry. Bobby can help anyone in the world stand out with their websites and their social media presence. If nothing else, he can sure to entertain you with his powerful voice and maybe assist you in the music industry. I'd like to welcome you to the show, Bobby. Thanks so much for agreeing to come on and share with us some of your life journey.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Just so you know, listeners, this is Bobby's cherry. We'll just call it that, and hopefully you'll get what I mean. Bobby's never been on a podcast before, so we're going to handle him with kid gloves today, but he has a knowledge of information. He knows how to yak just like all of us. So if he pauses here and there, we'll cut him some slack, okay? Can I get a raised hand from everybody? No, kidding. Anyway, Bobby, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Since getting to know you over the last couple of years, I've learned how talented you are, both as a singer and as well as an SEO professional. Bobby himself, for those listening, has actually been helping me the last couple of months with my own SEO as we continue to grow the Give a Heck brand. It's important for people to know how to find me. And unfortunately, most people don't understand what SEO is. We will get into that, though, in a short while. First off, though, those loyal to the show know that I like focusing on a person's origin story. It helps us connect. It helps us understand what that person's gone through from their earliest recollections to where they are today. Some people have epiphanies at when they're in their teenage years and go, geez, this happened to me when I was 5. I didn't realize that. This shaped where I went. And Bobby's got a really interesting story. I know you're going to enjoy it. And then we will get into the search engine optimization after the fact. And who knows, like Bobby wishes, maybe we'll have a part 2. Anyway, Bobby, please tell the listeners and myself your origin story, your earliest recollections to where you are today. Be as vulnerable as you want. Share what you want. My listeners are used to hearing the good, bad, ugly, and also the great.
Well, I was born in Southern California, so Ventura actually, and lived there till I was about 7 years old. And all of a sudden, one day, mom and dad are moving us up to Washington State. I don't know exactly why, but that's kind of how we ended up in Washington. And Washington was a really good place. It's a lot like Alberta. It's not a whole lot different. I grew up there on about 15 acres. We had animals, sheep, horses, everything, even peacocks. I remember we had. So I kind of grew up one of those kids that was, never wore shoes. I just my feet were leather soles, so I used to run on gravel and all kinds of stuff. I grew up in a small town it's called Creston, Washington. Everybody confuses it with Creston, BC, but it's Creston. It's about 60 miles west of Spokane. 250 people. So that's kind of and my parents owned a small restaurant there. And it was kind of a drive-in, hamburgers, French fries, and we had an arcade there. So imagine being the only arcade in a small town. So we had lots of friends growing up. Everybody wanted to be our friend because when they hung out with Bobby or one of my brothers, they got hamburgers and French fries, and then they'd beg me for the keys to back then in the 80s. You get the keys and you can go into that arcade and just flip it and put like 20 credits on there. So we'd play games, video gaming, like obviously we owned that restaurant from 83 to 93. So I guess from the time I was a fifth grader on up till high school. And then we ended up there's 2 restaurants in that town. The other one is as big as a steakhouse. And so we sold the small one and bought the bigger one. And then that's where I first discovered music and like the joy of music, because that place, we had I guess it held about 150 people in the back, and they had a stage with like a wagon wheel stage. So we had a lot of country rock bands there and a lot of live music. Back then, it was a big deal to hear the band. They have a band come to Creston was a big deal. So we'd even bring in bands from Spokane, blues, and mostly classic rock and country. And so for me, that's kind of where I got introduced to like, whoa, that's really neat. I really like this live thing. I started playing snare drum in about 5th grade. So I started playing drums. I had an interest in music in about 5th grade. And then by the time I was like an 8th grader, I was getting pretty good. I'm trying to think. When I turned 15, I was good enough to play in a band. And so I actually got approached because I don't know if you remember pep bands back in the day when there'd be a basketball game, the pep band would play the music and there would be a drummer. So I was the drummer. So anyway, a local guy said, "Hey, you're a really good drummer. I think you could really help our band." So he asked me to join. I was 15 years old when I joined the little rock band. We did mostly like 80s and 70s classic rock. And I started playing drums. So I remember the first night that I played, it was actually at our restaurant, and played all night long, had a blast. And then I'd have to go sit in the hall because I was 15, so I couldn't go into the bar. And so I'd sit in the hallway. So at the end of the night, I'm sitting there just smiling because I had a blast. And he throws me a $100 bill. And I go, "What's this?" And he was like, "That's your pay." And I was like, "What?" So he didn't tell me I was going to get paid. So I'm like, here I am, 15 years old. I just had a blast playing drums, and I got $100 for it. So I was like, then I realized, whoa, this is pretty awesome. I can actually get paid to do what I like. So that's kind of where I got going. I started playing with those guys about 5 or 6 years until my early 20s. And that's kind of where the music journey started, was from seeing it at our own restaurant and seeing all these different, bands come in. And yeah, it was from there I started playing guitar. And I didn't actually start singing until I was about 22 years old. I used to do like backup vocals and things like that in the band. Then finally he just said one day, "You're playing guitar and you're singing with me." So then the same band leader that I had, we actually started doing a duo together where he played guitar, I played guitar, and we both sang. And then I started getting more comfortable with becoming a singer, because it takes a lot of courage. It took me a lot of years to just have the courage to sing in front of others, and then slowly but surely the confidence builds up. But yeah, that's from there. Let's see here. I went to college in Spokane. The restaurant closed in about 98, I believe, and that's where same time I met my first wife. We moved to the Spokane area. I did I started working sales, wireless sales for a company in Spokane. And yeah, I did that for a couple of years. And then one day I was, I think, bragging to my wife at the time, saying, you know what, I looked at the records of our sales last month, and I did more than 50% of all the business in the place I worked. And then she just goes, well, why don't you open up your own store? It's like, that's not a half bad idea. So we did. I remember that day I went to, of course, I didn't have the money to open up a store, so we had to ask somebody for the money. So we went to her parents, and I thought for sure it was going to be a no. Says, we need to borrow $20,000. We want to open up a cell phone store just outside of Spokane here. And I remember my father-in-law looked at me. He's a big burly dude. And he was like, really? You think you could do that? You think you could run a successful business? I said, I believe I can, sir. And so, sure, I'll give you the money. And he said, you have to pay it back in 3 years. It's like, okay. So that's how we got going, and with my first business. And it was a very interesting business, because I hit the cell phone world when it just boomed. So it just was like 2000, right in 2000, cell phones are starting to become like, everybody had one, everybody needed one. And I was in when it was hot. So we started doing that. We, within a few years, started doing pretty good. I actually had my loan to my father-in-law paid back in 2 years, not 3. So we did that. We eventually opened up 2 more stores. We owned one on the military base, one in Airway Heights, and then this is in the Spokane area, and then one in Spokane. And we're really doing well. I'm trying to think here, I think it was 2008. That's when we had our biggest year ever. And that's where things took a different, my path started to change. So in 2008, we had, like I said, we just had one of our biggest years. And then all of a sudden at the end, I think it might have been early 2009, but my wife comes up to me one day and says, I don't love you anymore. I want to leave. And so my world was just completely shattered. And we had these stores and all this stuff going, 3 kids, that we're raising. Thought I had like a perfect world. But the way it works, sometimes it just, you get thrown a hard curveball. So yeah, after that, I think I ran the store for about 3 more years, but my heart it was something I built with her. So my heart wasn't in it anymore. So I got out of that. And once I became a single man again, I started, I guess it was called one of those eHarmony or one of those online. I remember when I was setting up that account, I had it set for like Montana and Washington and Oregon. It's like, I've got to be able to find a partner in one of these. Then right at the very end, I changed my radius, and it just scraped Edmonton. Just barely brazed it. I go, no, what a Calgary, you never know. So I set my settings to reach here. And sure enough, I would say that's like 3 days into it, that's where I started messaging some girl in Edmonton. Nice little, and so we started talking, blah, blah, blah. Before I knew it, we're really thinking about meeting and all this. And so we ended up meeting and hitting it off really well. And at that time, I think I still was at the store. She worked at a hospital here in Edmonton, and we're just deciding, should we live in America or should we live up here? What do we do? So, and me being kind of a little burnt from the wireless, it's how, I made a good living doing it, but a little burnt. I said, no, you know what? I'm going to come up here. And so I brought my son Jacob up to Edmonton here, and that's how I ended up in Canada. And that was
wow, what a journey.
yeah. Yeah, it was definitely and so I couldn't work right away. So it gave me time with my music. I had never actually had recorded anything. I'd dabbled in the studios and stuff like that. But I had a couple of years where I couldn't work. I mean, all I would do is help my new father-in-law. I'd work on his ranch, and he'd give me a little cash for that. But in that time, that's where I said, I'm going to do music. I'm going to do an album. And I never even had a website, or I think all I had at that time was a Facebook page, and that was about it. I think I was on Facebook. I didn't like social media. I was like, I remember people coming into my store, don't you have a website? Oh, I don't need a website. Who needs a website? That's ridiculous. So this is me back in 2009 and 2008. But when I started doing the music, I recorded a song here in Edmonton, and professionally done. It sounded really nice. And I put it up on the first website ever, to promote yourself. It was called Reverb Nation. It used to be a really popular website for musicians. And I put that song up and got a lot of feedback. And I was like, people saying, that's really pretty good. Like, and I started building, that was my first social media account where I took it like, this is fun. And I built it up. Then I got my stuff onto, what was it? SoundCloud, all these. I don't know if you've ever heard of SoundCloud, but I think it's still around.
It still exists. It's actually really big. There's new artists still use it a lot, actually.
Yeah, SoundCloud. So, and I started getting great feedback there, and like all of a sudden I was just smack dab in the middle of building social media. So I started a Twitter, and I started at that time, I don't think Instagram had come out yet. I had Twitter, LinkedIn. I was getting on these sites, and I was starting to learn them, learn how it worked. And I started to build a good following. I think Reverb Nation, I think I built up to about 100,000 followers on that site. And that's just, I don't know if you ever heard of this. All Reverb Nation is just musicians. It's a world of bands all over every city and every country you can think of. That's where we'd go, and we'd all share our music, and you get a lot of positive feedback. Most of the people are really nice. Everybody's just kind of saying, hey, great job. But that's kind of where I found out. So I met some producers, and on the Reverb Nation, I think it was about 2014 or 2013, I was actually approached by a label and said, we like your stuff. This is actually pretty good. And we'd like to know if you'd be interested in signing with us. And so that was a pretty small contract. I wasn't really interested at that time already. I think that was around 2012 or 2013. But after I did my first album, I'll Be Your Hero, when I released that in 2014, I got a lot of feedback. And that's where I was approached by a label out of Nashville. And they offered me a pretty good deal for the time. I believe it was, like a $250,000 recording contract. Plus, it was an album, and I was going to have my album done in Nashville. And right about that same time, Jonathan was born. So my son, and so we had this contract we're looking at, and it was exciting. But the reality of it was, when he read it, it's like, you have to be here, 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 here. You're not, you're just basically, it's a loan, and you have to pay it back with your royalties and your live shows and everything. So I didn't take the contract. I didn't sign with him. And sometimes I wonder, what would have happened if I would have done that. I don't know if I was ready or not for that, but it was definitely a time in my life where I was happy that, it had happened, that I knew that my music had gotten to a level where somebody would consider signing me. But yeah, that was 2014. Jonathan was born. That's about the same time where at that time, had built up a decent following on social media, probably around a couple 100,000 on all my social channels. And I was pretty much getting to the point where I was pretty good at it. So, and at that, musicians started to reach out to me and says, "Hey man, how'd you get your SoundCloud to here? How'd you get all those likes on Facebook? How'd you do?" And I was like, "Let me show you." And then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I can do this. I'm going to start doing this. So I think it was about 2014, I started actually helping musicians build their social media. And I just got so into it. I was literally like, I couldn't stop. Any new video come out, I'd watch it. And I just would, if I couldn't figure it out, I'd just stick with it until I found a way, to beat the algorithm, just get them followers and get I specialize in pretty much getting their likes and comments. I tried to get people to interact with the musicians. So yeah,
and that's because the algorithms prefer people to comment and interact.
Oh yeah, they do. It's the big deal. It's a big deal. It really hasn't changed that much. The only problem now is you've got so many people out there, kind of abusing it with bots, and it's hard to get unique, good comments. But if you can get good, unique comments, you're doing something right. That's what we want, is to find out how do real people think about what I'm doing here. So at that time, it was, mostly musicians, and it was fun. I had a lot of clients. The only thing about the musicians will be, and it's the old saying, a lot of us are broke musicians. So it wasn't, even though I had a lot of clients, I wasn't able to get the revenue that I needed to maintain, So I said, that's where I started to implement the SEO and start to get into, like, maybe I should be helping companies and trying to do this for businesses that need help in the search and need help on social media. So it would be about 2016, I started to do that. I started to reach out and step out of the music a little bit. I still help musicians, but I just needed to get a more of a reliable source of income with clients. And yeah, that's how I got into the SEO. I started helping just local businesses here in Sherwood Park in Edmonton area, HVAC, real estate agents, all, any type of industry where SEO makes sense. That's kind of where I like to focus on.
And your business in the US with some of the people that you've helped is because of your connections with Reverb and SoundCloud and that's how you ended up. When did you start Rockstar SEO officially, though? Is that
officially Rockstar SEO? I think it was about 2016 is when I actually started. I got the Google page and verified the address, so I was actually legit. Like, I've been an independent for so long. When I help musicians, I just kind of did it as Bobby McIntyre. I didn't really have a,
official title, official business.
But when I started helping, larger companies, and it just made sense. I said, better get official here. So yeah, that's how I got into the SEO, and that with Rockstar SEO, obviously chose that name because of the, kind of sound
music connection too. Yeah. I think it's brilliant personally. I know I didn't know a lot at all about SEO with all the people I've dealt with in marketing and website and stuff. They talk a little bit about it, but they didn't really. It would be like another menu option. Do you want this? Or, or it would come up in conversation, but they'd never really extrapolate what it meant. And, you would be, for me, SEO for dummies. You were explaining to me all the basics of SEO. So I'd love you to do that for my listeners and viewers on YouTube as well. What is SEO? Like, you don't have to dumb it down that much, but explain what you've explained to me and so many others, what search engine optimization does, and backlinking, like you mentioned a little bit of that in your explanation earlier. just share what you can and what you feel comfortable with about SEO, and why would somebody need you? Obviously, like you said, you've helped people in the funeral industry, HVAC, now me in the finance industry. You've helped people in the music industry. So just share what you can, please, Bobby, about the SEO industry, what it is exactly and how it works.
Yeah, Google scares a lot of people, but I look at Google as it's just a machine that it needs I'm searching Google for whatever I need. Google's job is to basically give a result that's going to help you. It doesn't want to give, a bad result. So part of the biggest thing about SEO is just having the information on your web page that makes sense to the user searching. Sometimes this well-written content can rank well just because Google, all it really does is it takes its little computer bots and it crawls the web, and it finds what's the most relevant content for you searching. It wants to give you the best possible answer. That's simple as that. The problem with most websites is people just put like tiny little blurb, and they don't understand that just because you got your website name up there, Google is not going to understand what it is. So one of the jobs as a good SEO is to make sure Google understands who and what you are, what you're selling. How can you help the customer? How are you going to be able to help me with my needs? Google's not going to rank your website if you've got, 200 words on your homepage explaining almost nothing. So one of the things with SEO is just simply let Google understand who and what you are. And that comes with just writing good content, writing words that make sense. I need help. Let's just say I need a financial advisor, and I want one in Edmonton. So a good SEO guy would design a web page that specifies I'm a financial advisor and I am in Edmonton, and this is what I can do for you. And sometimes just having the words in your title or tags is enough for Google to go, oh, okay, we understand. Here's a guy in Sherwood Park, or here's a guy in Edmonton. He's an Edmonton financial service provider. So SEO, that's the basics. You got to let the search engine know who and what you are. Where it gets hard and time consuming, and why it's a worthwhile business to pay for, is because it takes the time most people that own a business don't really have time to write a 1,500 word article, or a 2,000 word article. And they don't want to take the time to get it shared out to all the networks to get the backlinks. All that stuff takes time. You got to be willing to, do it. And who has time for that? You're doing your business.
Explain what backlinking means more.
All a backlink is, let's just say I go to your home page there, or you see your financial service page on your website. And basically a backlink is another website referring your website. So even sharing to Facebook is a social backlink. So what Google does is they'll scrape the web page and they'll say, oh, wow, this page has been shared to 300 blogs or whatever, and they know within a few seconds that this is a relevant page that in the industry. What happens is a lot of new websites don't understand, they'll put up a beautiful website, but that's not what matters. Google does calculate, how important is this page? This is the dark side of the SEO. There's a lot of people out there that manipulate this, and it used to be, really bad, but now Google has done a lot of updates to prevent that. So it still matters a lot because they want to know that this matters. This is it's on Twitter, it's on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn, it's on, this blog, that blog, whatever. That's really what they look at. And then content creation, and the content needs to make sense. And back in the old days, people just splatter a bunch of keywords on a page, and Google was dumb back then. So they'd rank a page, or they'd hide all the keywords underneath white. That was the old tactic way, way back. But that doesn't work anymore. Basically, your content needs to make sense. It needs to be relevant. It needs to provide useful data for the searcher. So
one of the things that you mentioned to me, though, because I spent tremendous amount of money over the last few years with marketing with people that were doing Facebook ads, and I tried utilizing Google directly with them and spent thousands a month. One of the things when I mentioned that to you, you said to me, well, once you stop paying, you're gone. And that really didn't make sense to me until you explained it. Why SEO is that much more important than the person, not to say that somebody doing Facebook marketing through Meta or, LinkedIn or whatever, it doesn't help, but it doesn't stay relevant unless you're constantly paying. These services drop you, correct?
what happens basically is the paid search is like, okay, I want to find a chiropractor in Edmonton. You could buy the top spot that it's called paid ads. And I always tell people you need both. Depending on the industry, you want both of them, because one good thing about paid ads is people who click the ads usually have intent. They're ready. They've gone past the searching there. But the problem is people don't trust the paid ads as much as the organic search. And the organic search is the maps on your phone, and then the first three, 1, 2, 3 in the organic search. People trust those the most because first, they're not paying to be at the top. Anybody can pay to be somewhere. Are you good though? Are you good at what you do just because you're at the top? So I think the stats for people clicking the paid ads is like 7 to 10% of people click on those, and the rest all go to the organic search because that's what they trust. So when say I just moved to Edmonton and I need a good realtor, I'm going to type in Edmonton realtors. And so I'm going to probably look in the map, look at some Google reviews, and I'm going to look at the organic search, like the first 3, but for the most part, people don't go to page 2. And so what I usually do when I'm looking to help people, I'll say, this is a great service. Say they've been in business 30 years, but they're on page 2 or 3. I'm going, this guy's selling this product, and sure, he's probably got tons of referrals, but he is missing out on a lot of money because he's not in the search. He's not there. And so what I usually do is I'll say, hey, sir, you guys, on all these keywords, you guys are on the second page or third page. I'd like to help you get on the first page so you can get more business. And that's kind of what I do, is I try to find people that actually need the help, and then try to get them in there. It's
like
not
me.
always. Yeah, your industry is a brutal one too. Like financial services, you're up against TD Bank, all the huge everybody.
Oh yeah, you're up against the IGs of the world, what they used to call Investors Group. I'm up against RBC. I'm up against anybody that's got a few extra dollars where they can make themselves pay to play and be number 1 or 2 or 3 on that top part of the page. Again, it doesn't mean that the average consumer should use those people. Normally they're looking for the high-end consumers. They're not looking for the mom and pop businesses or the individuals like me that are in the middle class and the lower middle class, to help them elevate their lives and live purposefully. So I think what you do is remarkable. It's very time consuming though, isn't it?
It is time consuming. That's where that I usually will say, sir, I know it's not impossible to learn SEO. I mean, it's just a lot of it's very basic, but do you have the time to do it? Do you have enough man hours to do it yourself? So that's kind of where I come in. It's like, I'll do it for you for a set monthly price. And here's, most people are afraid of SEO. They think it's all real techie. It's
smoke and mirrors.
And they're, unfortunately, because of how it's been abused, there used to be a lot of BS going on with SEO, but it's not just like that anymore. Google has gotten a lot smarter. So now, unfortunately, if you want to rank, you have to do work. You have to create a page that has got some content on it. Explain what you're selling, explain.
Well, and you have to have somebody that has a decade of experience doing it like you, and understands the nuances of it, and that it changes. And now a white page with keywords hidden don't work. And how many people out there on the internet right now, on social media, on YouTube, I don't care what it is, website development, still utilize the old practices because they don't stay on top of stuff.
They do. There's still people buying. That used to be when you could buy the exact domain name. You'd actually name your website edmontonfurnacerepair.com. That used to matter, so people would buy these domains just to have the keyword in it. I think it still helps a little bit to have it because but more importantly with any page, you want Google to understand what it is. So if you're a Edmonton realtor, you want to make sure that you have a page that specifies in your URL,
Yeah.
johnjohnson.com/Edmonton realtor. That would be
It's not like the old Yellow Pages days either.
Yeah.
Old Yellow Pages days, in the furnace category, they'd call themselves a furnace because they wanted to be first.
I remember those days. It's back to the old days with my store. I remember paying for a half-page ad, and I tried to get mine. I tried everybody would do that, like Action Furnace,
or they'd have big. I remember with my computer consulting firm, my retail store, we paid for a quarter page, freaking expensive, and yes, we got a little bit more traffic because of it, but it wasn't quality traffic, if that made sense. So at the end of the day, it wasn't something that really made sense, but it was all that was available at the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just how it was, like it used to be. Like if you open up a business in 2001, if you didn't have a Yellow Page ad, you were an idiot. You had to be in there because it literally paid for itself tenfold. I mean, and now 25 years later, you need SEO. Your company, you can't just not be online anymore. You have to have a website. You have to be aware of Google reviews. You have to be aware of where you're sitting. It's so important. It could be the difference of making it or not making it for a new company.
Well, you open my eyes up, and I'm not a new company.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
but it also frustrates me because of how many people I dealt with still want to do call to actions. Here, take this, pay the shipping and handling. We'll give you we'll give you a free book. We'll ship it to you, and now we have your email address.
Yeah.
Or they'll do, let's do $10 a day or $20 a day on Meta, where it's going to advertise in specific market areas or specific categories for Instagram and Facebook, and then there's LinkedIn. But some of that stuff, the more I look into it, it seems like it's severely outdated. It's the way that people have been used to doing it. And I don't hear a lot about SEO. I don't get it. But the way you explained it and then doing my own research about it, it is powerful. And not to do it is literally leaving money on the table.
You leave, and certain industries be leaving thousands and millions.
It'd be like not having your name in the Yellow Pages in the 2000s.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. There's paid ads can be powerful. Like companies can scale very fast, but if you don't know what you're doing with paid ads on Facebook and Google, you can lose money really, really, really fast.
They fire hose.
They don't care about. They love it when that money is being spent. It's gotten a lot. I don't really do Facebook ads a lot anymore, but the thing about organic search is if I get your website on page 1. This is the good part about it. It's not the only downside is on my end, but you might stay there for 3 years. Like if I get you ranking for a certain keyword, just unlike with paid ads, you're gone. Once you stop paying, you're gone. Organic search, you're there, and it could be there for years. I've got videos and stuff I've ranked on YouTube that are still number 1 that I promoted back in 2018, 2017. They're just there. 24/7, 7 days a week, they're there. If somebody Googles a certain keyword, they're gonna stumble across that. And
that's amazing.
He's still making money off a video that he put up, 6-7 years ago.
That's amazing.
It just lives there. So that's
But it took work to get there, though. It wasn't just snapping your fingers. It's not. You can't do SEO just 1 month. Is what I'm getting at. It is a long time commitment to because you can't go from 0 to hero overnight. It's
No.
like somebody being 200 pounds and wanting to be 160. You're not going to lose 40 pounds overweight. It took you years to get that. It takes you years to get rid of it, right? In a healthy
Right.
way, right?
And
Obviously, you can help people scale, but it takes more than a month.
SEO it is a long-term deal. You should always be doing it, because what happens is, depending on the industry, an industry like yours, for instance, is going to, you might get it on page 1, but what'll happen is people will create new content and they'll kick you down. If it's an active industry, you have to always be aware of SEO, because you might have the number 2 or number 1 ranking now, but all it's going to take is somebody to write a better page and maybe promote it more.
It's just a matter of getting content out there.
Yeah.
Putting it on your website, making sure you have the proper backlinks, using keywords to make sure that you have a higher chance of somebody typing in a word and you being one of the people you see on page 1. Correct?
Yeah. And for some companies, like for you, instance, because you have so much competition, I would recommend going after more long-term keywords, because for someone just to rank on financial services, that's going to be really hard. But
it's going to be impossible.
Like, say, financial service specialist,
financial educator, Edmonton.
You want to put a longer phrase, because that person that's really looking for someone here, they might find you then. But it's just like, it's tough when certain keywords are. I'll tell people, it's like, I don't know if it's possible here, just because of the sheer competition, but I can get you variations of that keyword, and there's thousands of ways that people search. Everybody searches Google differently.
Oh my gosh. You can search. That's what my friends will search things on Google and say, we can't find it. And I've told them for a decade, what words are you putting in? How are you phrasing it? And they'll tell me. I'll say, oh, well, phrase it this way. Bing, they get a response.
Yeah.
It's the words. It's how, and too many or not enough can matter. But at the end of the day, I think SEO is something that everybody needs to utilize. Well, certainly how about this, listeners and viewers, as being Bobby's client, we'll continue along the journey and have Bobby on as we grow this SEO, because it's only been a couple 3 months, and we'll see how things progress. They already are progressing. I've seen, when we're consistent about it, I've seen my page views, my website, 6,000. All of a sudden you get 6,000, then it can go down, and then it goes up and down. And I know it's because of the SEO, why all of a sudden I've had more traffic to my sites, and the backlinks, of course, obviously help. So, if somebody needed to reach you, what would be the best way for them to reach you, Bobby?
Well, you can go to the Rockstar SEO website. On there, I believe I got my cell number on there. You can text me. That's really the best way to reach me, is just text me.
Okay.
There's a lot of spam out there now, so I've learned to this is how you get a hold of me, and so I believe the number's on there. You want me to say it out loud too?
Well, it's up to you if you want to. Sure.
Yeah, it's 587-357-6900. Shoot me.
I'll make sure it goes in the show notes too, as well as your link to your website, and I'll copy and put in your social media as well, so people can check you out and see what it is that you stand.
Music. Don't forget, we're playing live here soon too. So
yeah. Bobby, if you're in the Edmonton area, Bobby fronts an 80s cover band called Paradise Alley, which is phenomenal. Like, if Steve Perry had a twin that could sing like him, it would be Bobby, right? Yeah. He's amazing. He sings so much more than that, right? More than just Journey.
Yeah, Journey, Foreigner,
Sticks.
Boston Sticks.
Foreigner. I've even heard him sing U2.
Yeah, I remember that. And
that was pretty decent. You
a lot of
sung it
Canadian
to
classic rock. We do street art,
Loverboy.
Loverboy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I even put on those red pants.
Yeah, like Mike Reno used to wear. I'm a music buff, so there's stuff I've even taught Bobby about when it comes to bands like Styx and that. A lot of people don't realize I'm a huge music buff. But Bobby, I know we have to cut this short. You got to deal with your son here right away. But I'm going to ask you this question. Just do your best to answer it. If you had to give our listeners, Bobby, one last closing message, what would you tell them in regards to giving a heck and never giving up?
Wow, life can be hard. Curveballs get thrown at you, and sometimes you feel like giving up. But just keep going. Don't give up. We're all here for a reason. God put us on this planet for a reason. You have a purpose in life, and podcasts like yours help people see that. Realize, wow, I am worth something. I'm meant to be something special. Don't give up. We're here. This is a blessing to be on this planet. We are
absolutely
blessed to be here, and every day is a new day. And the past is gone, and tomorrow's not here yet. So just live for today.
Absolutely, that is a great closing message. We got to live for today, and make sure that we have associations in our life that will help us climb and not stay camped. You and I have talked about that lots. I've talked about it with a lot of people. I've been stuck there. You don't have to be in the valley of despair, listeners and people watching, right? Bobby's been through a lot, and he continues to push forward in his life. And I've been blessed, and I believe our connection happened because of God. Yes, I happen to know his significant other really well, way longer than him. But I still think, though, that the connection and the chemistry that we developed was because God wanted us to be in each other's lives, to help each other continue to climb and be the best versions of ourselves and live with purpose and intent instead of just being on that hamster wheel of life. Wouldn't you agree?
Totally agree.
Totally. So thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it. I'm going to wrap up the show with my tagline now. And again, listeners and viewers, check out giveaheck.com. If you're new to the show, go to podcast, go down below. You'll see a picture of Bobby. You'll see the show notes along with the links, along with the transcript as well of the show. So thanks so much for being on Give a Heck, Bobby. I appreciate your time and sharing some of your experiences so that others too can learn it is never too late to give a heck.
Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to Give a Heck. If you find value, I'd appreciate you sharing with your friends and family so they too can learn how to live life on purpose, not by accident. So you do not miss the next episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and please also post a review. I look forward to reading your comments. This has been Dwight Heck. If you want to check out other podcast episodes or today's show notes, please check out my website, giveaheck.com. And until next time, together let us all strive to give a heck.